Hi, I'm Gary Jacobs, and welcome to another edition of Long Island Backstories, where we film at Cablevision Studios at Hauppauge, New York. And I always forget at the end of the show to tell you to, if you like the show, go to Facebook and like our Facebook page, Long Island Backstory. Share any of the videos that you see. The more people that see these, the better. Today, I'm totally honored to have as a guest former Marine John Welch. Not only has John served our country, he's also continues to help many people who came back from service, struggling with PTSD, and I'm proud to call John a friend. He's a great person. He's a great American, even though he's uncomfortable when we say that, and he asked not to talk about that, but I just have to get that out. You know, I'm really honored that you came on the show, and I know these things are difficult to talk about, but the things you do are unbelievable that you did for our country, and maybe one day we'll get you to talk about that. But today we're going to talk about PTSD, war, and a film that you made. So let's just go back in the history of who John Welch is. Where did you grow up?
Grew up in Brooklyn, New York, Flatbush.
Okay, tough neighborhood.
Yeah, large family, Irish Catholic.
And what made you decide to become a Marine?
Well, growing up in Brooklyn wasn't easy, and especially in my house wasn't easy, but I had brothers before me that were in the Marine Corps. My father was an officer. My grandfather served in WW1 in one of the most notorious battles in Marine Corps history, and it was kind of written in stone.
That you were going.
Unwritten in stone, perhaps.
Right, that you were going. So you knew growing up that one day you were going to be a Marine.
I was afraid, but yes, it was dictated pretty much.
Okay, so you did it. You were proud to do it and following the. Because from my understanding, you served more than once, so you could have left. So you say you were sort of forced to do it, but you could have left after you served the first term, but
right.
You didn't.
Well, in hindsight, we have built-in forgetters, and we forget what was once not comfortable and not fun. My retrospect tells me that my service was great from beginning to end, but while I was walking through the rice paddies and the jungles and the deserts, obviously it wasn't a comfortable experience at the time.
Right, and I know we don't want to talk about specific dates and combat experience, because that's not what this show is about. Rather, we want to talk about the results of war and stuff like. But just to give an idea, where did you serve?
I served in like 18 different countries.
Wow.
in my deployments. I was in the Far East, I was in the Middle East, and Central America.
Okay. And did you see combat? I know
Yes.
the answer, but
Yes,
just for the
I
people
did.
watching, you weren't sitting back the whole time in an office job.
Well, I was in the infantry. I was a nuclear, biological, chemical defenseman, so I had to study.
Can't even say that.
Well,
But you did see combat. Needless to say, you saw a lot of things that most of us, thank God, would never have to see or experience in our life. You made a video. When did you make this video?
I made it last September or so.
Okay, so you made this video, and we're going to show the video now so the viewers can see. And I know the first time I watched it, it put chills down my spine, especially because I know you, and it wasn't an actor doing it, and I said, wow, there's just you could just see the thought that went into this, and it's just such a deep thing. So let's go ahead and show the clip.
I'm pinned down. months now, and I still have my doubts. I'm not sure how I got here or how I'm gonna get out. And my mama says I look the same as I did before I left. But if she could see inside of me, it would scare her to death. I can still taste the powder from the barrel of my gun. I can hear my sergeant screaming, "Run, soldier, run." I can feel the backpack on my shoulders, got it weighed a ton. And I see death in every single thought. They taught me how to put that uniform on. I just can't get it off. Last Saturday they honored us in a small parade downtown. When they shot off those fireworks, I nearly hit the ground. And while they smiled and cheered for us, all I could do was stare. 'Cause part of me is here at home, but part of me is back there. And I can still taste the powder from the barrel of my gun. And I can hear my sergeant screaming, "Run, soldier, run." I can feel the backpack on my shoulders, got it weighed a ton. And I see death in every single thought.
And I'm sure people who are watching, who watched that clip had the same feeling that I had. Was wow. It's just, it's just an unbelievable thing to watch. So let me ask you a couple questions. I have a lot of questions to ask about it, but let me ask you, at the beginning scene, there's a child on the beach, because I know when we spoke about it at the beginning, everything had a meaning. There's nothing that was just placed there. So there was a young child at the beginning sitting on the beach. What was the reason, and what did that represent?
It's representative of lost innocence. It seemed like I was a child up until I became a Marine.
Well, they say that makes you a man, right? But you think
Well,
your innocence was stolen from you?
It kind of erased all that existed prior to witnessing carnage and loss of life. It seemed to have minimized all happiness in my life.
So do you feel like everything that you learned before then, the reality had changed now that you experience this? Or I'm trying to see what understand what you mean by everything was erased. I mean, you had a good childhood?
Pretty normal,
Right.
Pretty happy childhood.
Uh-huh.
But I wanted to show the happiness and the joy of childhood.
Not
and
knowing
the
what's out
screaming
there.
of children on the beach, developing into the screams of battle and the battle and the sound of war.
Right. So what made you do this at the beach? You could have done this in a jungle somewhere. You could have done it on the street. What was there a reason that you chose to do the shot on the beach?
Well, to show the transition from battlefield to beach, from combat boots to
One of the happiest,
being on a beach in
peaceful.
shower shoes.
Right.
So there is a transition. There's a lot of pain and there's a lot of distress in my life. Even from day to day, it continues. Like my family would say to me, "John, it was a long time ago, you need to forget." But yes, it was a long time ago, but sometimes it was last night.
Right.
When I close my eyes, I'm there.
Right. I should ask this at the beginning. So is this whole video, is this about your life and experiences? Is this a biography, autobiography?
It's
I mean, it's a short clip. You experienced a lot in all the years. But
well, it's hard to take everything that occurs over a career and put that into a 5.5 minute video. And I certainly don't want it to be about me, because I'm just the face of millions of others who have served.
You're representing people.
There's problems that exist in veteran communities, such as suicide. I made 4 suicide attempts in my life.
Well, and on the in the show, you at one point you're holding a pistol to your head. So this is you did attempt suicide yourself, and then
Yes.
you slit your arm in the video.
I overdosed with over-the-counter drugs, and I cut my wrist. You know, sometimes you feel like you shouldn't come home. Like, where's my flag-draped coffin? Why do I get this opportunity? Why is my life more important than others?
Is this what they call survivor's guilt? Is this?
Yes.
Is it? Now you pick up the helmet of a fallen Marine, Dixon. I'm assuming that's a real person.
It is.
And is this somebody that you served with? And then because you hold up and then you look up, so you appear to look up at the heavens. You know.
It is, and I
know you don't want him
I
to
smell
be.
him in it, and he's gone. And I look to the heavens and I curse God and I ask him why. His mother asked why it was not me. And yet, when we made that movie, one of the props was to put blood on the helmet. When I put the blood on the helmet, it was a windy day, and when the blood was finished dribbling on the helmet, it said me. So I often wonder why it wasn't me sometimes. The problems are many, and the answers aren't few. There are answers out there and solutions to a life where you feel that you can never do enough, or a life where you feel you failed. I used to believe that the only way I could do enough is to die, and sometimes I still feel that way. It's people pleasing to the millionth degree. I would lay in a puddle and let someone walk across my back so they don't get their shoes wet.
I know how you help. You know, we have a mutual friend that you help, and like he says, I know John would die for me. But this isn't just somebody saying, "Hey, brother, I would die for you." You live this. You would die for your fellow Marines and your friends.
Well, you know, I didn't want to talk about dates, but I'm going to mention a date. You know, people talk about wars and conflicts, and you know, you can go from Vietnam to Korea, World War II to Korea to Vietnam to the Cold War to modern day Iraqi freedom and Desert Storm, but there's a date that remains obscure to the world, and it is 23 October 1983. And it's a date where 241 Marines lay dead. Me not being one of them. Me wishing I was.
And what happened
It
there?
was in Beirut, Lebanon. There was a car bombing, 241 Marines died, and I prayed every day that my life didn't have to include me not being there, not having had to live a life where others could not.
You said this bothers you. Do you think this is part of the problem with your healing process? Is that, I mean, so much life was lost that day, but yet, like you said, we don't talk about that. You know, like we do these other wars. I mean, we talk about them in school, and we mention them. But do you think that's part of the problem? Is that you're angry that, you know, hey, you knew these people, these were friends, brother Marines, you know, that, and we don't talk about it. You think that's part of the problem? Because maybe, you know, that's something people can do now. Say, hey, let's recognize this, you know, and remember these people that were lost.
It's all but forgotten to many.
Well, you're not letting it be
but
forgotten.
to those who have served and to those who were there.
And the families of the people who lost loved ones.
It's been a difficult time for me. My whole life, following my career, and I wish that I could have been John Wayne. You know, take the hill, let's go, guys. But, you know, there's an enemy that's unseen. They don't wear uniforms. They don't come straight at us, and we just stand tall and become victims to terrorism and it's just difficult for me to explain how I've made it, and the only thing I could do now is to reach out somehow and try and help others, and I'm trying to do that at the VA. Right. And I think the VA has gotten a bad rap in a lot of respects, because if I could share some of the things they've done.
I'm going to get to this. I just want just to, at the end, because one of the things in the video is you're holding a bottle of whiskey,
Right.
and I think, and you mentioned when we in the show prep that, you know, alcohol plays a role in a lot of these issues when people come back. Did it play a role in your life, and how so? You know, how does alcohol affect many people who are coming back?
It's not just the alcohol; it's also illicit drugs, and they say that veterans are committing suicide to the rate of 22 per day, but I believe that number is a little skewed on the low end, because they're not counting the overdose from drugs. They're not counting single car vehicles. So yeah, it's a huge problem in the VA right now, getting people to get sober, and you know, it's our coping mechanism. It's something.
It was a hope to make you. Do you think it's going to erase the bad thoughts that you have, or I'm trying to understand. Do you want to forget about? I mean, I know, because on one hand you're saying I don't want to forget about these people, you know, in Beirut who were murdered and who lost their lives. On the other hand, you want to sort of do you want to erase it? I'm trying to understand what is it that you're trying. The drinking, I guess, is trying to erase it, but you don't want to erase everything. You want to erase some things. I don't know, like, what goes through your head when you or does anything go through your head when you're drinking? You just figure out, I'll feel better at the moment.
Well, it's a short-term resolution to a long-term problem. And if you're not in therapy, if you're not talking about it, I used to take my trauma, which there was many, and I used to put it in a box, and I used to climb up a ladder and put it on a shelf, and I let dust collect on it. But then you'd cut me off in your car, and I'd want to chase you to your house, or I'd feel the same hair on my neck standing up as I did when being fired upon. I didn't know how to dissimulate in between the two. But the bottom line is, unless I reach out there and climb that ladder and take that box down and talk about my trauma and my trials and tribulations, it's going to ruin my life. It's like whack-a-mole. You're going to hit that mole every time it pops up, but it's going to come up in other aspects of your life. So I do know that the only way I can get better is by opening my mouth. Like, God gave me the power to heal myself, my broken bones. No doctor fixes my broken bones, and my soul can heal as well if I could just open my mouth and let that black hole, that darkness that's inside of me that rules me, that depreciates my life. If I can reach down in there and identify it and then take it out, and I can listen to people like you, and you're my medicine, and my disease, which is the disease of addiction, the disease of alcoholism, post-traumatic stress, it'll leave me through my mouth. So if I remain quiet, I'm going to die.
Holding it in, so you're letting it out is sort of giving you your freedom to...
I'm even embarrassed to even be here today because I'm not a spokesperson. I don't deserve to be here. I look down upon the fact that you even have me here because I don't feel to be a viable speaker or someone that should even be worthy of bringing a message. But then again, that's also me still remaining that person that's been harmed instead of rising above it.
And as I told you, you're speaking and you've spoken to people at my house and it helps them. But I think we need to see that there's a face to war. It's not just, hey, let's just go there and bomb them and kill them and we'll be happy. These are real people. These are real lives. And we have to put a face. It's a lot of times it's easy to say, hey, they're the bad people. Let's just go over there. Let's send 20,000 troops over there and let's just shoot them all up and everybody will go home and be happy. There's not a lot, and even when you do come home, you're living with this for the rest of your life. So
right.
there are issues. I just want to go back when you were cutting your arm on the show on your clip. There's Hebrew writing on your arm, and you mentioned you're Roman Catholic. So it's not because you're Jewish. What is the Hebrew tattoo on your arm? And I'm embarrassed to say that I can't read it, so I'm going to ask you to tell me what it says and what it means.
I am my beloved, and my beloved is mine, and that can mean anything to many people. But I have a great respect for the Jewish people. I trained with the Israeli commandos, and I watched the way they live their lives. And you should be proud that your bloodlines go back to that country as well, or to those people. They're such a small percentage of our population, but yet they account for 40% of our Nobel Prize winners. So I have a great respect for them, and I thought of it enough to tag my arm.
As a Jewish person, I'm honored that you did it because you look at it every day and you don't have any other tattoos on your arm. So, that's a real honor, to the Jewish people that you would do that. Now let's get to what you really wanted to talk about today, which is PTSD. There's a lot of talk, as you said, about the VA hospital, and we have some of our presidential candidates saying we need to do more for our veterans. Are we doing enough? What else? What needs to be done? What are the problems that exist? There may be some people looking and saying, what, people have PTSD, but what can we do about it? What can we do about it, John?
Well,
what
PTSD
can we do? What needs to be done? It's horrible. I know so many people who struggle with it.
The military doesn't corner the market on post-traumatic stress. Right. They say it could be 70% of the population has post-traumatic stress.
And I spoke to somebody about that today that went through a bad divorce.
Car accidents.
And we said, listen, going through the legal system for 12 years, you suffer PTSD. It may not be the same, but it's real.
Right. I think there's a big discrepancy in the continuing care from when someone is active duty to when they leave. There is no handing of the baton over to the VA. The Department of Defense and the Veteran Administration do not
So it's like being in jail for 30 years and they just send you out into the street and say, hey, go ahead and live.
Right.
You get out and you have to learn. I'm sure there has to be a transitional period. You're going from this high conflict and your adrenaline going, and you're probably like, what the heck's going on here? This is a different world. Nobody understands what you just lived through. So you're saying the transition, there's no transitional?
I believe there's military people move on military orders. Before you get out, you should have a week in which you have spare time in your enlistment. 1 week left. Those orders don't bring you to your home. They bring you to your local VA. Upon arrival, you meet with a team of veterans themselves who transition you. They teach you about suicide prevention and alcoholism and drug abuse and post-traumatic stress, and they give you a VA card and they introduce you to your doctor and teams, and they give you meetings and psychotherapy, but there is no transition. A veteran usually finds his way to the VA upon crawling there, if they make it at all. So really, there's no introduction to the VA. And once you get in the door, see, the heaviest weight to lift in that place is the door.
Really?
If you could open
Once
that
you're in
door
there,
and
good.
get in, they can take care of you if you're a willing participant. They've sent me away. They've given me
Send you away to
counseling,
PTSD.
PTSD programs out of state, upstate New York, everywhere. No exceptions whatsoever on cost. And there's outside agencies as well. America's Vet Dogs.
We have Onyx sitting here.
Onyx has saved my life.
It's been great for you. I know.
She's the missing link in my life, this canine.
And that's a simple,
can't
fairly, relatively inexpensive thing to do that made such a big difference
Right.
in your life.
My life will never be without Onyx, or at least her predecessor.
So let me, I mean, the PTSD is there. I mean, is there like for people watching, I mean, can you be are you treated, are you cured from PTSD? Do you learn to live with it? For somebody who doesn't experience it,
No.
What is the result that you're I mean, I know this gets in the way, I'm sure this gets into your relationships with families, with girlfriends, with everybody. I mean, this creeps into all aspects with business. What is the end result of treatment of PTSD? Do you I'm just trying to think what the goal is. Do you learn to deal with it?
You have to, they give you skills at challenging your own thoughts, your own belief system. See, everyone has exposure to events in their life, but traumatic events burn into your brain. They scar you and they never leave. And you're always subject to return, almost as if you're reliving the event, where you can smell it, where you could see it, where you could hear it, where you're affected by your environment, where your thought process prevents you from going outside, isolating, being antisocial, not going into public places, hiding in corners. If you go into a restaurant, you don't want to be in a seat that's vulnerable to windows and doors. Lack of sleep, use of drugs and alcohol. So the symptoms are many, but without proper treatment, whether it be psychomedication, like I'm on like 11 different meds right now. Medication, group therapy. They even have social aspects of
Right.
healing you, where you can go kayaking with veterans, and you can go out and get in the sun. You could learn a guitar, learn a computer, but left to our own devices, the disease will kill you.
So I think what's important, because we're out of time and there's so much that we didn't talk about, but I think what I get from you is, look, go to the VA and get help, because they will help you. So people who are coming back, who are struggling and having these feelings, they're not alone. Go to the VA, get help. They can have happiness. I know you've had times of happiness in your life, and hopefully coming to a point where you'll be happy all the time, knowing that you're helping other people, and just the fact that you were able to come on the show and talk about these difficult things. Even I had to push you a little bit to get you to come here, but I appreciate it. And like I said, I look at you as a hero. Thank God for people like you that are willing to go fight for our country. I don't think I could do it, and there is a face to war. And again, thank you for everything you do. Thank you for your service.
Part of my happiness is being around you.
Thanks very much. Again, thank you for joining us on Long Island Backstory. We'll see you next week.